for the Beanstalk Venture Studio and our first program focused on drought and climate resilience. I'm Nat. I'm the operations lead for the Venture Studio. We're thrilled to have you here today as we prepare to onboard our first cohort of innovators with ideas and IP that could transform the way farmers and land managers live with drought here in Australia and in the world. The purpose of today is to ensure you all have the information you need prior to submitting an application for the Venture Studio and to introduce you to some of the Venture Studio team that you'll be working with throughout the cohort. So thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate your valued time. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. We have someone on our team moderating the chat function. So if you submit a question, we'll respond with directions either to our FAQs or to someone on the team who at the end will be able to answer for you. This is our very first webinar. We're pretty excited. So we'll be recording it for use later during our campaign. So that's why we've switched off your cameras for today. As we're wrapping up today, if you feel like you still have questions for the team, we'll finish off with the best contact details for you to speak with someone on the team before submitting your application. Next slide. Thanks, Caleb. So before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this webinar is being broadcast. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. We recognise that First Nations communities around the country have an enduring connection to the land, water and culture, and the oral histories passed down about drought can deeply inform the way that we all understand and more effectively manage landscapes across Australia. Next slide, thanks, Caleb. I'd now like to thank our partners at the Australian Federal Government, DAF. Our Venture Studio focused on drought and climate resilience is made possible by the support and funding we have received from the Future Drought Fund as part of their Drought Resilience Commercialisation Initiative. This collaboration has made our first Drought Venture Studio possible, and we are deeply grateful for this partnership and commitment to developing innovative solutions to tackle drought and ensure a resilient future for Australian agriculture. Next slide, thanks, Caleb. In the time we have here today, we are looking to cover some essential information for all applicants that are thinking about participating in the Drought Venture Studio. We'll go through a couple of things, our purpose, who we are at Beanstalk and working on the Venture Studio, our model and approach for building ventures, who we're looking for as innovators for this first cohort, and then the next steps and a Q&A before wrapping up. Thanks, Caleb. Okay, so my final caveat before presenting is to introduce you to who you're actually going to hear from and who is online during this webinar. During our time here together, you'll also hear from Marcus Agnew. So Marcus is the head of Venture Studio, as well as Hilary Watson, who's one of our very talented venture builders on the team, and who you'll be working directly with. Online as well, we've got Juno Wilson, who will be working on capturing your questions during the session, and he'll direct me a little later during the FAQs. And we also have our community and communications lead, Caleb Connor, who is online to make sure this all runs really smoothly. So thanks, Caleb. So to get things started now, I'm going to hand you straight over to Marcus. Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and welcome everybody to the first of our webinars. We all know that agriculture is a critical driver for sustainability on this planet in terms of climate change, land use, biodiversity, food security, nutrition, and as a provider of many jobs. The idea for Beanstalk AgTech came about in 2017. Everybody who works at Beanstalk AgTech shares the belief that agriculture has the potential to be a leading force of good and that technology is a critical part of realising that potential. There is an enormous amount of progress that can be unleashed if we speed up science and technology adoption within agriculture. Beanstalk AgTech is purely focused on innovation within agriculture, working with a range of agribusiness, public sector, social sector, and startup clients. Next slide. It's our shared experience that Australia suffers from drought periodically. Historical accounts and scientific analysis indicates that southeastern Australia has experienced about 27 drought years between 1788 and 1860, and at least 10 major droughts between 1860 and 2000. I'm sure all of us remember in 2019 how dire the water shortages were on the eastern seaboard, and since August 2023, large areas of Western Australia have been experiencing severe drought, and we also see rainfall deficiencies in southeastern South Australia, southwestern Victoria, and much of Tasmania at the moment. Next slide. With that experience of frequent and severe drought comes an advantage for Australia in what we can do in agtech adoption around the world. The Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change report indicates that droughts will become more frequent, more severe, and longer lasting as the effects of climate change roll out across the world. Already we see drought, extreme weather events, and the like occurring in many parts of the world. In the breadbasket of the US, the Midwest, about 23% of the Midwest is currently in drought. In southern Spain, there's been a 50% reduction in olive oil production in the last couple of years on account of the severe drought and weather events there. And even in the Amazon River Basin, which is currently suffering from drought, we see river levels estimated to be at their lowest levels in at least 120 years. Australia's experience puts us on the leading edge of drought resilience and adaptation, and that can be a source of competitive advantage as we commercialise our understanding of how to adapt, how to mitigate, how to respond to drought, and to be resilient to the impact of climate change. Also, agricultural labour shortages means that Australian farmers tend to have to be open to new technology solutions faster than other parts of the world, and that also gives us an edge in how we develop agtech and how we can pioneer it here and export it to the world. Next slide. The role of the Beanstalk Drought Venture Studio is really targeting a critical need that we see in Australia. On the one hand, we know that Australia produces an enormous quantity of high quality research. The RDC and CRC infrastructure, universities, corporate innovations teams, and entrepreneurs working on their own, and of course also the CSIRO. There is an enormous amount of great research there, but much of it doesn't make it to the commercialization stage. And we hear that when we talk to many of the great leading venture capital funds and accelerators that are looking to invest into early stage technologies, that often they find that there is that they need a bigger pipeline than what they're seeing. And so we feel that there is a role for the Drought Venture Studio to play to fill this gap that exists in the market, which is not always met to help great research and IP make it out of the lab and into the field. We are very grateful for the support of the Australian Government's Future Drought Fund, which gave us a $10 million grant to run this program and to fill this gap, because they see a need to commercialise this early stage technology and get it into the hands of Australian agriculture and Australian producers as quickly as possible. Next slide. I want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about what is the venture studio model and how is it different from other players within the venture capital space, because there are some key differences. The venture studio model involves a specialized team of ex-founders and technical experts who will be directly involved in the startup formation process. It's not simply about writing a check for a later stage company. Our team of venture builders will collaborate with innovators to help develop and test ideas, provide support, and where necessary, to help attract a co-founder to work in that startup. There are three key parts to the venture studio model that I wanted to highlight. So one is it builds upon a tested methodology of venture studios that have been pioneered in other parts of the world. It puts together an in-house capability to really help a startup get off the ground and move quicker into the ecosystem. Our venture studio will help to provide in-kind support, for instance, legal support, intellectual property, branding, design, and finance. And the funding we will provide will be for that in-kind support in phase one up to the value of $5,000 and in phase two up to the value of $250,000. I'll explain more about the different phases on my next slide. Participants in phase one will also be working with a community of other innovators that will participate in phase one of our program. And having that community around to support you in your journey is something that will be, a very valuable source of support and advice for you as you develop your idea further. The second key part of the Venture Studio model is really the close connections to customers. Our venture building team will work with you to help ensure that you rapidly develop a minimum viable product and that there is good product market fit. Part of that is to help connect you to the network that Beanstalk AgTech and the Drought Innovation Hubs have developed, the relationships with farmers and producers who can test your solution in field as quickly as possible. And we know that that is one of the challenges that early innovators have, is getting onto field as quickly as possible to prove out their solution and to ensure that it addresses the pain points that farmers and the industry are experiencing. We will work with you to help you get access to acres to trial the technology as soon as possible so that you can develop your product or service further. The third part of the Venture Studio model is we want to give you the best linkages into the broader market as possible. We will introduce you to a community of like-minded investors who share your vision for having an impact on drought resilience and climate change resilience. We'll put together events where you have the opportunity to pitch or showcase your works to like-minded investors, because we want you to build an investment-ready venture as fast as possible to ensure that you raise earlier and can scale faster. We'll also work to introduce you to relevant agribusinesses who can help you manufacture, distribute, sell, or use your technology. Next slide. Our program involves two key parts, phase one and phase two. Phase one consists of a 90-day commercialization sprint where innovators that are selected to participate are prepared and get help in validating their ideas for commercial success. Applicants into our EOI process we will select the top 24 to participate in phase one, which will be run from August to October of 2024. Some of the key features of phase one is there is no fee to participate in the program, and Beanstalk and the Drought Venture Studio will not take any equity or ownership over your idea. There will be a requirement on the innovator side to participate for about 1.5 days a week for that 3-month period. And we will supply up to $5,000 worth of services in kind to whatever is your critical need in order to advance your idea as far as possible. There will also be support from the venture building team of your idea as you go through that commercialization sprint. And if as an innovator, you're not necessarily ready to be a founder, we will work to find you a co-founder who can take your idea further. I should call out that there will be 4 intakes over the coming 2 years into phase one. We've currently opened the expression of interest for cohort 1, and that will remain open until the 12th of July 2024. However, we strongly encourage applications to be submitted before the 28th of June to allow our team to contact you to ask you any questions about your application. But the deadline is the 12th of July, after which we will submit your applications to the selection committee, who will select up to 24 innovators to participate in the first cohort in phase one. Innovators coming out of phase one have the opportunity to go into phase two. They'll apply to participate in a 12-month program that will involve a great deal more financial support. So up to 8 ventures will go through to phase two. Again, no fees, there is no equity will be taken of your startup. And there are different models for how you can be involved in phase two, because we recognize that some innovators and researchers won't be able to participate in the program directly, but we will work with you to work out what is the model in which you participate. We'll supply up to $250,000 of support and investment, again, for a variety of services, design, branding, marketing, HR, finance, whatever is required in order to get your startup to an investment-ready state. Our team will work with you on the formation of your venture, questions about equity design, IP licensing, and the like. and we'll be making extensive introductions for you to potential customers and potential investors. And you will have the dedicated support of one of our venture building team. To get into phase 2, there will be an investment committee process, which is comprised of industry professionals, and they will select the ventures that will most benefit from participation in phase 2. With that, I will hand it across to Hilary to talk more about phase 1 and the process.
Great, thank you so much. So in terms of phase 1, what does it contain? So understanding the gaps, an actionable plan for execution, and then not just focusing on simply having a strategy, but getting down to more details with a pitch deck and pitch practice. So really our goal in phase 1 is to start you or to accelerate the journey towards investable venture or commercial readiness. So what do we mean when we say drought resilience? Next slide. So drought resilience is actually not just about water itself, although that is one aspect, but drought resilience is about the ability to adapt, reorganize, or transform in response to changing temperature, increased variability, and scarcity of rainfall, changing seasons of rainfall, and improving that in terms of economically, environmentally, and the social well-being. So really any way that helps with the volatility that this climate change can cause is included in our definition of drought resilience. So that could be drought resilient crops, insurance, water harvesting, soil health, community, and mental well-being. Next slide. So this slide goes over what we have thought of in terms of drought resilience. So all the ones that I said, livestock, of course, is impacted, supply chain, information, knowledge and knowledge sharing, and then pest and weed. But if you have a venture, IP, or idea outside of that, that's still within the scope of drought resilience, such as creating new ways for farmers during that time to have income. They're all worthwhile in terms of applying. Next slide. So innovation comes from many different places, as Marcus was talking about. So if you're a university student, university staff, from a research institution, such as RDC, such as CSIRO, or any alike, then we would love to have you or have your application within the Venture Studio. Or if you're from a private company, an entrepreneur yourself, and you're early or later in your journey, or you're at a company where you've had an idea and that's going to be able to be spun out, or you think it could be spun out into a venture, then we'd love to talk to you. So we are a government program, and we've been very fortunate to have the Drought Hub support. But there are some measures in which we need to operate within. So you must be an Australian entity or an innovator who is an Australian citizen or permanent resident. If you have any questions on those, we can take them in the FAQs afterwards, and they're also available on our website, which we'll get into in a bit. The other ones that I'll just highlight is you must be able to actually own your idea in some way. And if you've got questions in terms of whether you have the ability to do that, again, reach out. And you have to be able to participate in the program. So in the first phase, it is very flexible, but you have to have the desire to fully participate, and we have to be able to accommodate that. The other thing is our program is 13 months roughly. So we want to have ventures where we can help you move the dial in that time frame to reach commercial viability. So next slide. So the selection criteria is aligned to making sure that you're a fit, which is that you are aligned to the market, meaning that agriculture, there's an opportunity within it, that there's potentially the potential for traction, that you have a unique novel idea. So therefore a solution, an IP for a problem that exists, that the industry is aligned to be excited about this idea. And that's really where Beanstalk's experience and our knowledge can really help with that. You are a team or individual who is willing and excited to participate, and that we as a studio are able to really move your idea forward. Next slide. So there's a question of how early or late in your venture do you need to be, or your idea? And the answer is, it depends. But if you're in doubt, do apply. And on the shorter side, if it's a data model where there's a potential of iterating on it fairly fast, then we can take an earlier venture. And if it's something that's deep tech, where there might have a need to have several years in R&D, it would need to be on the later side so that we can really ensure we're able to get it to commercial viability in the timeframe of the program. So next slide. So what are the next steps? So if you're interested, you can directly apply using the QR code or visiting our website. As Marcus said, the submissions close on July 12th. However, if you apply before June 28th, we would love the opportunity to follow up and clarify any questions we may have to make sure that it's a better experience. How can we support you? We have our FAQs that, of course, are live right now, which Caleb and Juno are helping with, that we'll go over. So ask questions in the chat if you've had any come up. You can email us if you have more questions that you think of afterwards. And right now I'll hand it over to Nat, who will hopefully be able to get through some of the questions. And if there's ones we don't answer, we will be in touch.
Thanks, Hilary. Thank you, Marcus. So firstly, allow me just to apologise to everybody on this call. Our Q&A function seems to have not been working. Also, allow me to let you know we did 4 dress rehearsals before this and it was working. So I do apologise. Tech, who needs it, hey? Anyway, so we've got a couple of FAQs that we can share with you on this call, and perhaps, Hilary, I can point this one back to you. So if I'm an innovator, I want to apply, I'm thinking about it, how much financial support will I receive?
Yep. So in phase 1, it's 5,000, and that is to be spent on allied services to do with the venture creation or validation. So if branding is a focus, it could be branding or a website, or it could be something to do with the validation, such as a customer research group helping with seeing where exactly the right fit is for you. In phase 2, it would be $250,000 worth. That's a combination of a co-founder salary and more allied services, a larger amount for that that's dedicated to maybe potentially legal, further branding, actually development of product, depending on really what the venture needs. And that's really where we're excited to be able to bring to the table whatever is required to really help accelerate it.
Okay, great. And so, like, how much equity are you looking to take into my new company?
Yeah, so I know it may seem too good to be true, but it's actually none. And the reason is because we're government funded. We cannot take any equity. So really it is free, as Marcus mentioned. So there's no equity, there's no fees. It's a government funded program. So therefore you retain all your rights. However, if you choose to have co-founders, then you guys may split equity. But from our side, in terms of Beanstalk and your participation, there's no equity taken.
Terrific. And so we've got some tremendous people on this call, I can see, and I know some of you. And I suspect most of you have been in some kind of program similar before. So Hilary, what's the difference? Like, why would they want to come into our program? How is it different from other early stage accelerators?
That's a really good question. So new ventures are selected and will be created only if they're focused on Drought. So we really want to have some kind of Drought lens on it. We also have specialist venture builders, as you talked about. We have a team of people who are experienced in venture building and helping really grow a company, start and grow a company. So in terms of having a dedicated people who are part of who act essentially as part of your team for a period of time to maximize the commercial outcomes of the venture.
Thanks,
And
Hilary.
really, one other way we're unique is that we do not take any equity, so there's no dilution, and it's free for to participate, as we just talked about.
Thank you. So that's our FAQs. They do feature on our website, but if there is another specific question that you have, we really welcome you to get in touch. So on the slide here that Kayla's put up, we've got our QR code to apply. But if you think, oh, you know what, I've got a couple of more questions, I'm just not really sure, we highly, highly recommend that you email us. The email address is ventures@beanstalkagtech.com. ventures@beanstalkagtech.com. So like any program, this is going to be running until July 12th. We really highly, highly, highly recommend you get your application in early. Often with these programs, we can get applications quite late in the process, but please start your application now. It's really important to us so that we can have a look and we can get in touch. But as I said, that email address, ventures@beanstalkagtech.com. Okay, so I think that's going to pull us up. We're 15 minutes earlier, so we'll give you some time back. But we just want to say thank you so much for your valued time. We understand it's Friday afternoon, and we really appreciate you joining this call. As we said, please jump on the website. Please have a look at all the information we have on there. Please get in touch. We want to hear from you. We want to hear all your wonderful ideas. Even if you're not sure you qualify, just get in touch. We would really love to hear from you. So thanks again for your time, and we look forward to looking for your application. Thanks.